Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of WWII Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing. Today I'm joined by my colleague and co-host, Seth Heckman. Seth, how's it going today?
Doing great. Really looking forward to this time together, Todd. We have a legend joining us, so getting ready for a great conversation.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there who's been in home improvement for any length of time at all, today's guest is someone you're going to immediately know. So today we are honored to welcome someone who's not just a legend in our industry, but someone who has helped transform literally thousands, tens of thousands of home improvement businesses across the country. He's a consultant, author, speaker, and perhaps most importantly, a fierce advocate for professionalism and profitability in our home improvement industry.
That's right. We're thrilled to welcome Dave Yoho, founder of Dave Yoho Associates. For decades, Dave has helped contractors and companies sell more effectively, manage more efficiently, and lead with confidence. His incredible energy and insights are second to none, and someone we have learned so much from over the years here at WWII Industries.
Absolutely. Dave, welcome to Construction Disruption. It truly is an honor to have you with us today.
I equally am pleased to be here. I'm pleased to be anywhere at my age.
There you go. and that perfect lead in. So you've had a remarkable journey, including being a World War II veteran, for which we all thank you most sincerely. Because that is such an important part of your life, and I know that you are regularly recognized as a surviving World War II veteran, tell us a little bit about how you served and how that came to be, because I know yours is a unique story.
Well, I'll be brief. When World War II started, we only had 130 million people in the United States. Japanese dropped a bomb on us in 1941, and December 7th. Then that changed what we were doing. We eventually put 16,200,000 people in uniform. A little bit scary. That was 12.5% of our population. We diminished the operational abilities of our country severely because we took the people out of the factories, from the trucks, from whatever they were doing. And fortunately, women exploded in their abilities to perform the things that men held sacrosanct. They drove the trucks, the buses, the trains, and the women did all those things, flew the airplanes once they were made from one point to another, and they managed to do all those things in what I call an improvised position. Only 7% of the women in the United States drove cars in 1941. Now along comes 1941 and the whole world changes, and we put these people into uniform. When the war started, I was 13 years of age. I grew up in the inner city of Philadelphia. Parents never owned a home. My mother maybe had a 7th grade education. My father maybe the same or a year more. My father drove a truck when there was employment, and we lived in a rented home, a row home. Rent was $11 a month. And during that period of time, my father was out of work for a period of time. Now, I'm going to tell you this and tell it briefly. I don't want to stay in this area. I hold up my hands like this because later on in my life, I studied human nature, human behavior, and I am very, very familiar with therapeutic use of behavioral practices. In other words, I've studied that and been privy to studying that. And here's what I've learned. Here are my two hands. Over here, I put because of, and over here, I put in spite of. So whatever your story is, you do some things because of and in spite of. And if you want to tell me about the tough times and the hard times, God bless you, I don't really have the time because everybody's got this. If you want to talk about what you did about them and how that's the way it is. And this industry and this business, heck, was all in the 60s, very small companies. There were no organizations, no structure, anything like that. So out of that, I went into the service on a falsified birth certificate before my 16th birthday. and I was taken into a division that only exists in wartime. It's called the U.S. Maritime Service. They train you, and then they put you on a merchant ship. I wouldn't know a merchant ship from a naval ship. I'd never been in the ocean. They brought people in from the Midwest that had never seen an ocean. But out of all of this, we got together as a society and worked homogenically. We had the same president the day the war started. He probably wouldn't have made it to the end, except he had a heart attack. And we had the same president. And it wasn't that there was an abusive practice which was transmitted verbally or whatever that is among people. So what does that say about us, all of us? Now, I'm fortunate enough to still be here and a spokesman. I speak all over the world for, as you probably well know, for service people. I'm held up to be somewhat of a celebrity. And that's the wrong thing to say, because the minute you call somebody a celebrity, they begin to believe it, and the whole world centers around them. So if you have a question about that, fine. World War II comes to an end. I turned 17 4 days after the war ended. I'm in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I don't have a complete high school education, much less a further education. And when I got home, I was a junior in high school when I went away. And so when I came home, I can't drive a car, I can't vote, and I don't even have a high school education. Now, God provides, because they created something called equivalency. There's an equivalency diploma. And so based on that, I got an equivalency diploma to high school, went to night school. I lived in Philadelphia, went to Temple University, got my undergrad degree, and took the first job I could get, and happened to end up in the industry I'm in. I would have never selected it out of a group of things that I wanted to do, but I ended up here. And so what I learned from my upbringing is mature where you are, study from where you are, preserve your value system, treat everyone as an equal, don't treat them any less than an equal. That includes your customer base, and now find a way to communicate. So I don't want to make a speech or a sermon, but that's how I got into the business.
That's a great story, and thank you again for your service to our country. I am curious about something. Of course, I've heard your story before. Here you are in the Merchant Marines. You go in 13, 14 years old. Surely your shipmates realized you were not of age, or was it? I'm just curious. Or were there a lot more like you?
Yeah, there were. I wasn't the only one. I went in at 15. The most decorated military of World War II was a guy by the name of Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy was the most decorated guy. He went in the Army at 16. His sister helped him falsify a birth certificate. But there was a theme of patriotism that may never exist again in our country. This was our country. We were desecrated by an enemy that was thousands and thousands of miles away from our shore. It wasn't like entering a war where you go across someone's border. And we got together societally, fraternally. We worked in combination. As to the camaraderie aboard ship, a lot of it is overblown, but people say, it was a wonderful group of guys I was with, and we sit around all the time and talk about it. No. If you have someone that you know that came out of World War II, your relative, your grandfather, your uncle, your father, they don't talk about it. Because when we came home, we had lost 440,000, and there were another couple of million that were affected by mind and body that took that to them to their deathbed. Now, of the 16,200,000, there are less than 50,000 left, and they die at the rate of 100 a day. I only bring that up to date again because you make it in this world, not by complaining about what you don't have, but being able to do the best at what you're doing right now. Remember the two hands, because of or in spite of. And I am a tradition of both. And my parents weren't educated. My father was not an affectionate or educated. So I took the first job I could get. Everything about the job was better than what I had. But I'm a student and I did learn.
You know, what you're saying there reminds me of something I heard the other day. You can approach life that everything is being done to you, or you can approach life that everything is being done for you, and how that changes your mindset when you start to look at it differently.
Well said.
Well, I'm curious. You've worked with thousands of companies. You went on, started with your own company, went on, started Dave Yoho Associates, began training and consulting. What do you see as hallmarks of the most successful companies out there? Are there common traits or behaviors or methodology that you see amongst the most successful ones?
Well, when we spoke of methodologies 50, 60, 70 years ago, there was no methodology. A salesman was a guy with a personality, a hype, who could spew fine words and mesmerize people and whatnot. But there was no structure to what he said and did. Much of it was self-appreciation. I did this, I did that, I can do this, I do that. Oh, you're a fisherman. Well, I once was a fisherman. Oh, you're a bowler. Well, once I was a bowler. Oh, you're in the automobile business. I fooled around with a cat on my father's car. And so that was symbolism that was adopted for performance. But the truth is, society works on understanding the other person. We have to understand them. And so you come into this world knowing this much. And when you're about 15, 16, 17 years old, you think you know this much. And if you do know this much, then the rest of the world is this much. How do you transform to what you have here? You have to go back to being a student and understanding that the customer is always the key ingredient in everything you do. Now, don't misunderstand me if you've never heard me before. I'm highly sales-oriented, marketing-oriented, business-oriented. I've served on the board of public corporations, testified before Congress a number of times, helped create consumer protection in many parts of the world, lectured all over the world, spoken in every state in the United States and 22 foreign countries. People are people. They speak different language, have different patterns of behavior. And the more we can understand what they're doing, not adapt to it, but understand it, then our language gets transmitted better. And they are some of the fundamentals that do and don't exist today. Now, a lot of good, growing companies have since been sold, as you well know. There's been a lot of acquisition going. And the people who acquire other companies have the prime asset, money. And money buys them what they want, a going business. But tragically, a high percentage of those companies do not understand the basic fundamentals when it comes down to one-on-one. Now, you're going to hear a lot about AI in the next year or two. It may have heard a lot about it together. We're heavily involved in all those systems. Here's what I would tell you. Unless we can fundamentally understand our customer and what he's really saying or what he really needs, not what he says he wants. And so how does that approach? Well, you sell a product. Some people treat it as a specialty. Some people treat it as a commodity. If it's a commodity, you say, well, we make a bid, we put it in writing, and the other guy reads it. That's the presumption that he will or she will or they will read that. So the next step is, how do you refine that to get into their presence and make a presentation to them? And if you have people in this business, they come from various sources. Many of them are organically grown, meaning they come from the industry and they were installers or they worked in a plant or factory, and they understand the fundamentals of the product that you produce. Now, the consumer is the receptor. They have the house. And we want to sell our stuff to make it part of their stuff. But the key is to understand some of the language. And the language we use in the world of commerce is soiled. It isn't really fundamentally good. And I'll give you the simplest example. You're going to be guinea pigs in a moment. Let's say you go shopping in a mall with your significant others, your wife, whoever it is you're with. But let's say it is a husband and wife. And the wife is the shopper. The guy is not a shopper. Guys buy, but they don't shop. They don't have a shopping mentality. This has to do with the fundamental structure of the brain. It's unbelievable, but we're all created the same way. Two parts of the brain, the right side, the left side. And they're like walnut shells, they fit together. But information is transmitted from one side to the other, and it's different in a male and a female. Forget all about that, but understand it's there. Now, you and your wife go shopping. You're in this place. It took you 20 minutes to get to the mall, 10 minutes to find the parking space. You've now invested a half an hour. You go up an escalator, down an escalator. You finally get to a department. Your wife is looking at clothing. The clerk comes over and says to your wife, is bending over, looking at clothing on a rack. What does that clerk say to your wife? Tell me.
May I help you?
Okay. Traditional, right? For years. What do you think the answer is? 85% of the time.
Oh, no, I'm just looking.
There you are. Now, if you're listening to this rather than being part of our conversation, let's see how smart you are. Do you hear something different? Tell me about it, because I've worked for all these people, including Walmart and some of the big department stores changed. And we went in and we take a look at what they were doing. And we said, there's a fundamental flaw in that. Because you're not going to find out what that person needs because you didn't tell them the truth and they're not telling you the truth. Now, I'm not saying they're lying. They're just using language that believe has a response. So somebody would say, well, what was you? Well, with the big department store change, we start with this. You got to change that. You got to stop saying that.
That customer is really saying, I don't think you have anything to offer me based upon what you just told me, so go away.
Or suppose this. Traditionally, we don't trust salespeople. Mm-hmm. It's a dirty word. And you look at the fundamental. I just heard on the news the other day, this guy talks like a used car salesman. They use that as anecdotal material. What it means is that's the way people think of the used car salesman. They're not all that way. Somebody has had experience and paints them that way. But going back to this again, when they say that, I'm just looking, that's a defensive move. Now, suppose that clerk had said to your wife, leaning over that piece of goods, excuse me, is this for you personally, or is it a gift for someone? Your wife responds, no, it's for me. The next question would be, so may I ask what's your size? And women have sizes. I'm a 6, I'm a 5, or whatever that might be. So she says, okay, I'm a 5. These are the petites, so you don't want to be looking here. Now, is this for a special occasion? Or no, it's every day. Well, come with me. I'll show you the 3 departments here that have it. Now, what has she done? She has helped you. Getting people to change that language is unwise use of phrases. What is the simple example I can give you as the most overused yet unused statement? How are you today? Now, somebody would say to you, how are you today? Seth, how are you doing? So I'm feeling too good. I got up this morning. I think I have a toothache. It's my upper right hand. And I didn't sleep well because I'm not a great sleeper, but I didn't sleep with well. I get up this morning and go in the garage. One of the tires is flat. Now, we used to have AAA, and my wife let it last. So we don't have AAA. I got to get out there and change that tire. And now I'm running late. So I leave the house, kiss my wife goodbye. 4 blocks from my house, I get stopped by the police. Why? I'm going over the speed limit to make up for the time I lost. The cop doesn't want to know that. I see your driver's license, owner's card. So by the time you get to perform in your business world, you've had disaster upon disaster upon disaster. And then somebody says, how are you doing today? And your answer is going to be, go away. I just want to lay down and die. If you look at a contemporary phraseology, a high percentage of what we use is incorrect if you really want to communicate. So if we say to somebody, the first words you say to them is an appreciative one and an affirmative one. Thanks for shopping Walmart's. Just like that. And now you've got a greeting. Thank you for that. Now, how may I direct you today? Well, we're looking for bicycles. No problem. Aisle 7, let me do better. Let me walk down there with you. Now you're helping them. And Walmart built their business on keeping their customer in their store longer than you keep your customers in your store. It isn't just the prices, because everybody can be the lowest. If you want to be the lowest price, you're going to have to dig mighty deep. In your business, if you have people, they compete at all sources. And one of the guys they compete with is a guy called Chuck on the truck. And Chuck on the truck doesn't carry any insurance because he doesn't need to. He may have automobile insurance, but he doesn't have workers' comp because he can't even get it. Chuck on the truck thinks if he buys the product for X and it costs him X to develop them, and he's got $500 built in as a profit, that he's in clover. Now, you may argue with that philosophy, but Chuck on the truck lives that way. And then in all probability, not to prime anybody with the wrong fluid, but he doesn't pay his taxes. Whatever he gets in cash, he doesn't share with Uncle Sam. That's what you're facing societally, but worse, your customer is facing that all the time. So how do you prepare for that? And listen, what I do, my work, people may give me complimentary introductions such as you've done, but the guy who is already doing what he's doing, who's going to be listening to this, thinks he's doing the right thing, or he wouldn't be doing it. And that's true of anything you do in life. I often ask an audience, I say in our seminars, how many of you have ever been on a diet? Please raise your hands. The hands go up. And I say that's not the truth. You've been on many diets because dieting doesn't work, and is what you will do. You'll diet, lose 8 pounds, think you look great, and then you get the second bowl of ice cream tonight, or you eat the 4th slice of a pizza. And so you've confounded what you really want to do, so you can always go on another diet. Well, the same thing is true of a homeowner. Until they find someone who fulfills their need, not their wants. What do they want? They want the highest quality product at the lowest possible price. How far away am I from the way most people think? And they think they can do it. You can get the highest quality product with the highest quality performing installation with all the insurance, and we don't have to make a profit. So it's seldom the price, mostly it's the value. I feel I made a speech. That was a long answer. So where do you like to take it from there?
No, I loved it, and it shows your years and years of being the leading expert in this communication for our industry and others. I was, as you were giving your examples and these other organizations you've worked with, I was, just reminded the level of intention and discipline that must go into really enacting this science, this methodology, everything you train. And so I'm curious, what is your advice for someone who hears that long answer and can't argue with any phrase of it or any point, but how do you go out and implement? And then even more challenging, if you're managing a team of 3 salespeople, how do you get them to implement it? What are the best practices you've seen?
Well, that's you're cheating on me. That's not really one question. That's 3.
At least.
I'll try to separate them. Most people don't know as much as they need to know about a modern society. If you're doing anything that's over 24 months old that was taught to you, the chances are many, many changes. Now, when we went through COVID, you found a way to get into the house and you could sell, but you couldn't install as much for many reasons and a shortage of it. So now backlog built up. And the minute backlog built up, you're selling something to someone where you're not going to get your money for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and more. Now, in your learning, you have to love the fundamentals of this business. We in the home improvement business don't sell a finished product. It isn't like going in to buy a car or a table, a chair, even a piece of clothing or tie. You don't see the finished product. Now, because of that, we have to be able to paint a picture of what that means. And you sell a product that you use on roofing. So what does the average roofer want to know as promptly as possible to give you a price? How many squares are in that roof? And he gets so fundamentally concerned with that, that's the way he quotes his price. He bases it on that. Whereas in every roof, there are a lot of fundamental errors that are there now. As an example, the current roof may not be working because you have a leak. Or the current roof may not be working because you don't have sufficient ventilation in that attic area. So how do you determine those things? By doing an inspection. So that's a fundamental need. You can't go into a professional medical office and say to the doctor, well, I got a little softness here now. I cough a lot and my stomach's often upset. Doctor, no problem. Take this bottle. There are pills in. Take 2 of these pills every day for the next 19 days. Get up in the morning, go to the bathroom right away. Call me in 2 months. If you listen to that, you better get another doctor. Because the fundamentals of your needs can only be examined by getting you to talk about your needs. That may seem oversimplification. Let me give it to you. What we build into our system, we have something called methodologies. They're processes. They're all based on fundamental knowledge. As an example, the ability to ask questions is done in what is called a Socratic method taught into our system. We call our system methodology. So the Socratic thing is when you present a price to someone and they say, wow, that's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. What do you think the average person in the home starts to look at? How can I cut this price? How can I walk it down? But they haven't said that's the problem. You've isolated the problem. So if that person were to say to you, well, it's a lot more money than I intended to spend, wait 4 seconds. First time you wait 4 seconds to respond, you'll think there's a rodent eating at your vital section. It's painful. But you wait the 4 seconds and then you say to that person, curious why you say that. Don't say, is it the price? Say, why do you say that? Now, there may be 23 reasons why he says that. So in Socratic reasoning, you ask a couple fundamental questions. Every once in a while, we do a seminar on selling, and a guy goes, if you ask me that question, I'd throw you out of my house. Why do you say that? Because I don't like people who won't answer my question. Do you feel that's obviating your answer or denying you your answer? Well, the way I look at it, if I ask you a simple question, you should be able to give me a simple question. I said, it's true in most cases. How important is your home? What do you mean? It's an investment. What do you pay for this house? $400,000. I said, you got an attractive place. Now, that was how long ago? 17 years ago. Oh, so would you sell it for $470,000? No. What does it sell for? $800,000-900,000. Whoa! So that's your asset in the home. The difference between what you bought. Yeah. Now listen to this. He said he would throw me out of his house, and I just asked him 8 or 9 questions. And the reason he will answer those questions isn't what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it, how I'm looking at a way to find his ultimate need. And when I find his ultimate need, show him a way to get it. So there's a fundamental. That's what marketing is. Find a void and fill it. find a void, then fill it. So any product that you sell that you want to be the lowest price, don't waste your time going to the people's house. Mail them a letter. Send them an email. I'm being facetious, because if you can make that work and not go visit the people, I want to find out how you do it, and I'll pay you a lot of money to find out. So the fundamental of this is complicated. And when you look at today's market, the average small businessman is facing a lot of problems, no question about it. What are some of the problems that you hear? What do you hear out there as a complication today in doing business?
The typical ones: not enough leads and not enough good people to do the work.
Are the leads more costly today than ever before?
Yes.
Okay. It isn't only that getting the lead has cost more. How many of those leads do you convert to sales? Makes the difference. So you have a cost of acquiring the lead, sorting out the information, creating it into an appointment, making the appointment, then it becomes an issued lead. If it's your own company, same deal. Now you got an issued lead in your hand. Your job is now to get those people interested enough that they want to hear your talk, your spiel, whatever it is you call it, and they want to hear that. That's the next role. And if you present to them in a format that fulfills needs that they have, you're off. I'm not saying you're going to get the deal, but you're already in a better position. So I know you're familiar with it, because I remember you attended one of our seminars where we showed this, both of you used how to do a roof inspection. And it's not only from the outside, because people go up on the roof and look at the outside. 70-80% of the problem comes from the inside. If you don't have ventilation in the attic and you have an asphalt roof that you have a 20-year guarantee, and you're living in Nevada, at the end of 7.5 years, that roof is burnt out if you don't have ventilation. And so the idea is no different than going to the doctor today, where they take the vital signs. Now, how do you go about that? You present it in a way that is beneficial to the recipient. And obviously, education is my business. We run these seminars all the time. We're running them. We're doing a big one in October this year. And we don't call them, my son is the chief operating officer of this business. He called them summits, meaning the top of, the peak of. And we get together some of the finest minds in the business, some of the greatest examples, and we show the people that are there how to get the fundamentals. That's the toughest part in the world. I go back to my example. If I say to the department store, stop saying, may I help you? Oh, no. Well, what is it you want me to say? I want you to say, welcome. Thank you for coming in today. How may I direct you? Oh, they don't want to hear that. That's too long. Then don't use it. You asked me what I would tell you to say. And I can educate people to do it. I can't force you to do what is in your best interest. Do you know people who smoke?
Yes.
Do you think smoking is healthy for them?
Nope.
Do you think they somehow don't know that it's unhealthy?
The ones I know are well aware of it.
Well, why don't they do anything about it? Because they'll tell you I can stop anytime I want.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing is true of a behavioral practice. They can do anything they ever want. So the fundamentals of teaching people become complex. Some people do it better than others. There's some people out there that are whirlwinds. We run a group called HIMS, and it's really devoted to people who are tops in their field. And these are retailers. And the top guy does $1 billion too. His revenue is $1 billion too. Second nearest guy does 700 million. Average guy does anywhere from 40 million up to 300 million. Now, how do they get to that? Starting with fundamentals. And that's where people don't want to go. It's very painful to them to think they have to go back there. Why? If I go into an organization, we do something where we do a 2-day analysis on a company. And we ask them all these things in advance. We do a survey of them. We do background on the business, get all the informational data. And then the survey on their salespeople, we ask about 27 or 28 questions, all confidential. It's fed into a system. They fill it out on the computer. It comes into the system. So what do we hear? So if you have, let's say, you've got 20 salespeople, and we say, what are the 3 most common reasons you get from customers who aren't going to buy your product? What are the 3 most common phrases, objections, blockages you get? What do you think most of the time the 3 are?
Price certainly has to be in there.
Positively. It'll be one of the first 2. It'll either be price or we're getting other prices. We're getting 3 prices. So there. So we say to them, then they said, when you get, which of these is the most complicated to deal with? And they'll tell you the price. And I don't care what it is, they'll tell you the price. So now you say, what do you do about that? We have a drop-down product. We go back to, that's not the way it works. It works in your eyes. But why this person who bought the home for $300,000, it's now worth $700,000. This is their investment. And let them know if they got the same mortgage they had. If you have, how much equity do you have in your house? That's yours. And it's not even taxed. Now, how do you want to protect it? How do you want to care for it? People say, you can't get them to answer. No, I'm not asking you to get them to answer. I'm telling you to implant. This is a great house in a great neighborhood. You picked it for a reason. You don't really need an acre of grass. You don't really need a game room. You don't really need a deck. And you don't need a barbecue grill on the deck. You don't need those things. Hell, you don't need air conditioning. But try to live without it today because you become conditioned to it. So the fundamentals of what that person knows, outrageous. Now, what does the salesman say? Again, we'll say, here, it's 30-some questions. Towards the end, we say, what could your company do to make it easier for you to sell more volume, more contracts? You probably know this already. 2 things. We need better leads, and we should have lower prices. Now, I don't care what they're selling. We did this with GE where they sell things for $4 million or whatever theirs. It's the same. I don't care what the intellectual structure is. Everybody will come with the same thing. So if you say, well, how do you talk to people about this? Do you sell them on the concept of delayed payments? Oh, no. But some of these people don't finance. Oh, I didn't know that. How did they buy their house? I mean, they went and paid cash? Oh, no. They got a mortgage. Oh. Excuse me, I thought that was financing. So well, I'm being a little facetious. I don't want to apologize for that. But how do you get around these things? How do you do it? What is the model of your business? And how do you stick to your model? And that's complicated because you're dealing with society now. There's some things people will like to do and some they won't like to do. And that salesman, if you could give them a lower price and you could give them better quality leads that you spend 10 times as much for, you're not going to improve his close ratio because that's not the way that attitude feels or thinks. Listen, by the way, most companies have different kinds of customers. I'm talking about they have customers in the home improvement business, retailing to homeowners, or retailing to commerce, retailing to builders, whatever it is. They have a business already, and it's already running it. And if I were to ask these basic questions in my examination now in the first part, what have you read on selling? What do you believe is a fundamental need in selling? Not what your philosophies are, but what did you read about it? What have you read about the economics of selling and why it even exists today. And do you know that there are people who believe that AI will come along and you don't need salespeople? And I would say, I'm pretty old now, but I would like to stick around for 20 years and see somebody do that without the human element. So in all these things are an understanding of the person. Have you ever heard about, we have a behavioral profile. It's called a DISC.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard about it. Maybe you've even seen it or taken it. We're not the only one that has that. We're the only one, we believe, that has the algorithms that the American Psychological Association has approved. And I can tell you that these are 4 or 5 different behavioral styles, and you have to teach 4 or 5 ways to get the same information across. Because if you have people with certain behavioral styles, and they used to say, salespeople got a gifted gab. That's one thing you want to look for. I'll say only if it's balanced by a guy who learns how to listen. Having a gifted gab is worth this. Having the gifted gab and then learns to ask questions expands to this. Because in that period of time, you learn more about the people you're working with. So when we did this, to get to this, to be able to do this, and we're certified by the American Psychological Association, and we're certified about some other things. But the reason I tell you this, we spent $145,000 getting these things finessed that they would be at that level. And why is it? Most small companies is anybody who does under 50 million. That's a small company today. And they do it. You have to be careful how you're training people. And as you well know in this world, I mean, every once in a while you'll see in one of the trade magazines, people are being sued because they did this wrong or that wrong or what have you. And that they're not intentionally rule breakers. What they are people who don't know and don't know that they don't know and don't care that they don't know and they don't know. So here's what I teach. We teach. Number 1, you cannot know what you do not know. Number 2, you cannot find out what you do not know until in your mind you can say, I don't know. And number 3, if we show you what you don't know and you don't do anything with the information, it's just the same as not knowing at all. So where do you want to take this next? I mean, how these things work. The fundamentals of selling. Remember I gave you the 2 brain sides?
Mm-hmm.
So women are more right-brained than men. Women, I hate to tell you, this may offend you, are superior thinkers to men. And the reason because they see things that we don't see if we're left-brained. And you're selling an unfinished product, and that's why if you flash on the screen and you say, this is your house, but here it is with our product on it, you've done a transition for the woman, not the guy. The guy look at it, yeah, that's great. The woman will say, oh, I like it. In my opinion, though, you should have a little more green in that or a little more red in that, because they visualize what that will look like on their home. So how do you get language? If you want to study the way I've studied and so devote all the, go ahead. But if you don't, you're going to take someone else's word. And that's the great American hoodoo. I know how to do this. Do you know what step selling is?
Yes.
You take 90% of the successful companies in this business will tell you they use step selling. That sound good? So then answer me, what is step selling? Oh, well, first you do the recognition, and then you do the introduction, and then you do the company story. And no, they're the steps. What is step selling? Step selling is you don't take the number 2 step before you finish the number 1 step. And the 1 to number step, if you mess it up and you don't handle it right, you're never going to get to 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here it is. When the appointment is set, I'm going to just throw this out. It's set improperly. Because ideally, if you get to a home to sell, there should be two people there. And so the guy will say, well, customers don't want to hear that. What is it they don't want to hear? They don't want to hear you say that the husband and wife has to be there. Why is that? Well, particularly the women don't want you to tell them that they can't make a decision without their husband. They're right. That's the wrong thing to say. Is that what you're saying? Well, no. Well, then why you tell me they don't want to be there? Suppose when they call into your place of business, you have in front of you a list of 10 things that you're going to ask this person. And the minute they start to talk, you say something like this. First of all, we want to tell you how much we appreciate your calling. And right now, we have a little more time than usual. So let me ask you some fundamental questions. In case we get disconnected here, let's start with your phone number, because the phone system breaks down. I want to be able to get you back online, and we can be able to finish. What's your phone number? Is this your cell phone? You have a cell phone also. And you can get the numbers right there. Now, the next thing you say, so your house has a problem. Tell me how you see the problem you have. We need windows, we need doors, our kitchen is up, whatever it is they start to tell you. And then say, so is this based on your appraisal, or did some real estate specialist tell you that? No. Okay. So how long have you lived in this home? 17 years. Now you call the resident, you say you got a little leak, or the shingles are lifting, or you get ice dams in the winter. So tell me, how long has that been a condition in your home? Oh, for a number of years. So curious, why are you calling us now? Yeah, you having a problem? And see, you will get these fundamental truths from these people by asking questions in a series of, and I hate to tell you this because somebody's going to hear it and going to put me to a test. I like difficult people because difficult people have opinions that they think are erudite. So I say, fine, it's good to meet somebody that knows that. Give me some ideas of what you now know and why why you would. So all these things then can be encapsulated in when you are talking to the people instead of the appointment, and say, as the finality to appointment, now here's what we can do. We can have our representative come to your home at a specific time at your convenience, preferably in daylight to begin with, or at least twilight, so you can see the extrusion. And let's say it's a roof of the outside product, whatever it might be. And then we will also have him, he'll have a kit with him, and he will examine your roof from the interior. We will take a look at, here, these words, what you need to have done and what you want to have done. And if we can supply you with either of these things, we will give you an accurate proposal on what your investment might be. Listen to it. They are fundamental words out of something called neuro-linguistic planning. Now the person says, okay, all right, I'm going to let you in my home. They're going to say that. When the guy gets to the house, first thing I tell him is, look at the name on the lead. Whatever the name is, say it 4 or 5 times before you knock on that door. If the name is Shamalski, break it down phonetically and say it as clearly as you can. And once you knock on the door, if you're a guy and if you're over 6 foot tall, you take a step back. Why? It has to do with the ratio or distance between you and I. And this is at a neurolinguistic leveling, meaning I want to be speaking at your level, not mine. So I back off. But let's go back again. Knock on the door, man comes to the door. You look at it and say, Mr. Brown. He says, yes. Mr. Brown, I'm from XYZ Company. We have an appointment for 6 o'clock. It is now 5 minutes after, so I'm running 5 minutes late with an apology. Did my company tell you what we will do here today? I will say, well, try to sell us something or give us an estimate to try to get us to put on a new roof or put in replacement windows. Well, you don't say yes or no. You say, we're here to take a look at what you want to have done and what you need to have done. And if we can fulfill both of those, what you want and what you need, we can give you an accurate proposal on what your investment might be. And for some reason we can't do what you need and want, we may be able to give you a referral to somebody who can do that. Do you think that is abrasive language?
No.
Here's a trick: getting people to do it, getting people to say it. And so what happens, we created something, I don't know if you've seen this yet, called super sales training. Have you seen that?
I have, yep.
You've actually seen the...
Yeah, so we have customers that swear by it. So I've been in their offices when they're using it.
Here's what it is. And some people, when they hear the first time, they'll say, oh, boy, no, listen to this. Because it's me starting. And what it is for you to understand the fundamentals of speech. I don't want to put anybody down. I don't want to say I'm better than anybody. I'm not going to tell you I'm better educated than anybody, or that I have more money, or I've been more successful. Nothing about that. I want to be able to fundamentally say to you, speak to you in a language that you can understand. So then I say, but here's something that you have to come in grips with. I'm going to say, and I'm doing this, and the people who use this, pretty fundamental. It's ongoing. They pay for it, and it comes by the month. They pay for it, and it comes by the month. Very inexpensive. But the owner of the business, the director of the business, the people who manage in the business have to look at it first to understand this. So the first thing I say that you're not going to like, I say, most people do not like to sell. Now, if I offend any of you, raise your hands if you're offended. Well, I'm on camera, so it's okay. Put your hand up. Don't worry about it. You're not going to offend me. I'm not going to offend you. Let me prove to you, though, why what you say is not true. Fundamental truth. Most people do not like to sell. Have you ever had an appointment where you're guaranteed all parties would be there and you get to the house and no one's home? Oh. Have you ever gotten to the house and guaranteed both people there and only one is there? Oh. Have you gotten to the house you've been told that you could, they'll be there and give you an hour and a half of the time? And then you say, well, we got to go to the church for seeing a musical there tonight. We only have 15 minutes. Huh? Have you ever been told this is for us, we like it, we love you, and then they don't buy from you that night? Oh, have you ever sold those people and then 3 days later they cancel? Have you ever sold them and it took longer to get to the job than you had anticipated and they want to cancel? Have you ever sold a job where they believe you promised something you didn't give them and they're withholding you part of the payment? No, I don't want to go on from here. I just gave you 7 or 8 things. Is there anything to like about any of those things? No, that's the realities of life. That's what it is. The percentage, you tell me the finest salesperson you know, and I'm going to tell you if he sells better than 35% of the leads that you give him, you're in clover. But if he does, and you have 5 salesmen, and the other guy on the other end is selling less than 1 out of 10. Because the truth is, we want to get the order. That's what we want to like. Now, the second thing is, most people don't understand selling. Why? Why is that? So I'll ask you the question. Have you ever sold a guy, you believe he sold, his wife likes it, he likes it, everything, but he starts to hit you with price objections and whatnot? And you can't sell him, and you come into the house. What do you call that guy? Tell me, what label do you give him? A price buyer? Cheap? Whatever you call him. You named him that because you don't want anyone to think this is something that you didn't do. And all these things we teach. And the simple things that you have to watch them over and over. I didn't get my education easily. I have to tell you, when I came home from World War II and went back to school, I had to work during the day. My parents didn't have enough money to have me stay home without working. So I worked during the day and went to school at night. I went 5 nights a week for 26 weeks. And then you get a week off and you go right back and do it again. I'm only telling you that to say, if it's worthwhile, it's never easy. And learning your customer, what can you take away from the sale you didn't make? What do you take away from how satisfied is your customer? Now, I'm giving you a speech, and I regret that. You asked a question, and I assume until you break in and tell me, you want me to stay on the same subject. All right? That should give you grounds to ask me a couple other questions.
You are such a wealth of information that, it's just great to hearing you and listening to you and learning here today, Dave. One of the things that you just said, if it's worthwhile, it's never easy. And I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Can you just kind of reflect a little bit on that? I mean, are there people that go into sales thinking, this must be easy. My uncle did it. My grandmother did it. And, I can sit and talk to people.
Yeah, well, because they never look realistically at what they're asked to do. Because a part of that is you would say to somebody what they like and dislike. Have you ever been on a call where the temperature's over 90 degrees or under 20 degrees and you had to stand outside for a while? How many of you have ever had to canvas? Anybody that had to canvas and likes to canvas, it's sick. They need treatment. So most things you have to overcome the illogical parts. Anybody going to pay you a lot of money? And incidentally, we have companies where the salespeople sell product, the average contract range, $25,000, $28,000, average contract. But we have companies that have salespeople who sell between $3 and $4 million. And in the same organization, now they're a big organization, you get people who sell under $1.5 million. Now, it all depends on the standards that you set. And a firm believer in something called analytics. I'm getting off in another language here. Analytics is no more than getting an RCM and analyzing how many leads did we take in last month? How many leads did we take in last week? How many of those leads did we convert to appointments? How many of the leads did we get there that there was a one-party situation? And you take a look at those analytics and work towards perfecting them, or take a look at the person's behavior and what it's like. Now, I do have to tell you, and I wrote a book on this called the EPOD Theory, Energy, Persuasion, Optimism, and Discipline. It became a bestseller. It's the second formation of it is in its second edition already. And it's called How to Have a Great Year Every Year. And the EPOD theory was energy, persuasion, optimism, and discipline. All these things are what I call out towards. You're developing them as a form of interacting with people and not judging them, but interacting with people. Well, I'll give you another example. We were in Chicago doing a series of management programs, and we didn't know the makeup of the audience because the audience sitting there, how can you tell who's why not? And there were 2 women sitting down close to the front. And I say, is any of this complicated inherently? You hear it, you don't like it? And one woman puts her hand up. And she says, it is not fair, and it's not Christian-like. So I said, why is that? She said, you're teaching people to always answer a question with a question. I said, that's true. She said, and that's fundamentally wrong. Why is it? Well, she said, we're both nuns and we're both teachers. I said, I got the answer already. You are it. You're God's messenger. But here's what I will tell you. Take a look at your Bible. In the Bible, wherever you see it in red, that's where Jesus is asking a question. He doesn't say there's only one answer. He says, here's the question. And if you look at something like the prodigal son, how can you ever rationalize any part of that as being powerful or correct? Now, that's life. And I don't use that in all the seminars because some people might get offended at it. But the truth is, you will be judged on how much you know about me. I'm talking about customers now. How much do you know about me? How much do you know about my indecision? And if you take a look at what we do to devise that, look at what percentage of things are financed. And he goes, I can't bring that up. Most people don't like the finance. Why? Well, because, well, let me tell you something. 85% of expensive cars, I'm not talking about 40, 60, I'm talking about expensive cars, Lexus, Mercedes, any of these things are financed or on lease. Why? Because the guy who has money says, I don't want to put the assets in, put my assets in the marketplace. But whatever fundamental reason he's given, it's his value system. It's not yours. It's his. So if we think of our customers as being a great asset, a wonderful asset, then how do we say to you, you've got to go in the house and judge? You can't until you get them to talk. And getting the talk has to be based on your willingness to listen to what they tell you.
You know, Dave, this has been fantastic, and we are coming up on an hour, which is kind of where we start to kind of wind things down here a little bit. But been a real privilege to have you here today. But I'm kind of curious. I mean, are there any final words of encouragement or advice you'd have for, let's say, salesperson out there in the home improvement industry? And, let's say it's a guy that's working for a company that doesn't subscribe to your theories, doesn't subscribe to methodologies and systemization. What advice do you have for that salesperson? How can he still be a top achiever and top performer despite maybe being in a culture that doesn't recognize and put forth, selling by methodology and step selling and so forth?
Well, see, you're dealing with a fundamental human issue. Most people do not like regimental learning. Would you agree?
That's a good point.
Do you have grandchildren, Todd?
Not yet. And my son has to talk to a girl before I ever will. So I don't know if that's in the cards. Okay. He's a little shy.
Well, go back. How many children do you have?
Just one son.
How old was he when he could do his ABCs?
He was about 2.
How about you?
My girls were, 2 to 3, somewhere in there, yeah.
Now, how did they learn to do their ABCs? Pretty complicated things. 26 letters in the alphabet. True. Not connected in any form. How did they get to do that?
They repeated the song they heard us singing over and over again.
And that is called a mnemonic. That's a strange word. It's spelled with M-N-E. N. It is, again, M-N-E. That's how that word is spelled. Look it up. And what it is, it talks about cadence. And the cadence means A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Now, it doesn't make any difference if you have a master's degree in English or math, or you're an engineer, whatever it is you are, whatever it is you know, here's a fundamental. Any child can be taught that by a parent who doesn't have better than a 5th grade education. But see, if that child doesn't learn that mnemonic, and by the way, the other part of it is, if you want to get technical, it's done in what we call iambic pentameter. If the child doesn't learn that, he can never spell a word. And if he can't spell a word, he can't put it into a sentence. So the fundamentals of our education must start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. And that's wherever you are. So the fundamentals of human nature say, examine yourself. Give yourself. We do this all the time. These things we have. We say, look, listen to the plan. If you got a question that isn't answered on there, you call us. But it's ongoing. And if you see the people who use it, the way they're using it is to give them an education first. And it isn't fair. I mean, today there are a lot of ways to measure, but if you have people, if you have customers, if you have affiliates who have other people working for them, how do you know that what you're teaching them is what they're really saying to your customers?
Absolutely.
And now there are companies that do that for you electronically. They record your whole message. There are companies who buy that service and then they don't listen to the recordings. Yeah. And the truth is everybody saying what you say? Because if you don't get arithmetic by doing the basics, or you don't get iambic pentameter or mnemonics to start your education, it becomes tougher. But you see, even children raised in orphanage really get the basics of that. Again, the mnemonic, the iambic. So, Todd, to answer that question, most people don't want to deal with fundamentals. Most people don't read a book. I read this book I heard him speak somewhere. I read this book by Charlie Hickeldoffer. What did he do? What did he do for a living? He sold pots and pans. Great, that's great. Did he ever run a company? No. Did he ever train other people? No. But he's telling you what he did, and because he did it, he wants you to emulate that, and you do it his way. And ain't the way the world works. It isn't the way they live. So the fundamentals, getting to the fundamentals, it is a really, really tough deal. We have people that come to this thing we're going to be doing in October. I hope you get there. We're going to be doing something called a Gathering of Eagles. And if you haven't seen it, it'll go online shortly. And what it is paying homage to these people who have worked hard diligently at mastering these techniques and then teaching them to others who have built big businesses. But they live in a world that people look at them and say, yeah, well, I couldn't do that. And so if you say to somebody, this is what you need, they don't necessarily want to do what their needs are. Make sense?
Absolutely. It goes back to what you said. If it's worthwhile, it's never easy. So you got to figure that out. Well, Dave, we're going to ask you for some contact information here in a little bit. But before we get there, I have to ask if you are willing to be part of something we call our rapid fire questions. So these are just 5 sort of random questions. We're going to ask you. Some are serious, some may be a little silly. All you have to do is give a response. Are you up to the challenge of rapid fire?
Go ahead.
I know you are.
Here's one thing I want you to answer me. Are you looking for answers, or is this just part of a game?
This is really part of a game. But yeah, I mean, whatever your answers are, these are just quick, we call it rapid fire questions, just real simple questions.
Well, then I'll say to somebody, okay, if any of it's going to be mathematics?
This will not be.
Okay, because if you ask me mathematics, the answer is 171.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, that may be the answer anyway. I don't know. Seth, go ahead and you ask the first question.
All right, Dave. First rapid fire question. What is a daily habit that you swear by for staying active and sharp in your career?
Exercise every morning, 5 days a week minimally. Do the exercises for your brain and your body and your limbs so you stay mobile. Do you know how old I am, Seth?
96?
Yeah, I'll be 97 in about 6 weeks.
Incredible.
And I don't know most people can keep up with my schedule or what I do, but it comes from discipline.
Incredible. Yep. I know there's lots of people talking in the breakfast line at these seminars about seeing Dave down in the gym at 5:30 that morning. So.
Yep, I do. That was going to be your answer, so that's why we asked it. Question number 2. You actually probably already covered this, but what is a common excuse you hear from underperforming salespeople?
okay, something is wrong with the system, something's wrong with society, something's wrong with our customer, something's wrong with the customer's attitude, something is wrong with the value system. And if they know they can't get quality, why do they buy the cheaper version? So that's acquiescing and blaming it all on someone. What it really comes down to, because of or in spite of.
As 40 years of working with salespeople, so often I've had that happen where I ask them, "Hey, how'd that lead go the other day?" "Oh, that customer's messed up." Well, okay. Did you follow the system? "Well, no, they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't even let me get." Okay, I understand.
All right. Question number 3. If you weren't in this industry, what career do you think you might have chosen?
I'd say serving people in some form. I don't necessarily see me in the religious light. I would say that I would get in the field of working with people who have medical problems and mental problems, combination of the two. I would like to work with people. I do some of it now, but if I had a lot more time, I would do a lot more of that.
Beautiful.
That's incredible. Awesome. Question number 4. Are you a dog person or a cat person, Dave?
I'm neither. I've never had a pet. Now, my children all have pets. Everybody in this office has pets. My son has pets. All my children have had dogs, but they never had them in my house. I never had pets in my house. I like them as long as they're in other people's turf.
The older I get, the more I feel that way, although I'm nursing 2 geriatric dogs right now at home.
All right, last question, question number 5. At the end of your days, well, far into the future, what do you want to be remembered for?
I'd say for being there when called upon. I'm a firm believer in that. I believe that each of us has been given skill sets which the rest of society doesn't have, and that God calls us to use the skill sets to benefit those around him, and not always getting reciprocal development from them. The people, that's a great idea, here's $1,000. It doesn't work that way. So I firmly believe that being a giver, and I am fortunate because I surrounded myself with those kind of things. Starting with the woman I married. I've been married 52 years with the same woman. I was married 22 years and 9 months before to another woman who's long since passed away. But this woman I married is just my ideal mate, can put up with all my nonsense.
That's beautiful. Good stuff.
And you have certainly lived into that call and because of it had an absolutely unmatched impact on our industry. And we, first and foremost, want to thank you for that and are grateful for that, Dave. For those of you that want to learn more about Dave Yoho Associates and all the services and support you can offer through those consulting programs and training programs, what's the best way for them to learn more and to reach out?
Okay, the number of ways. First of all, we're hard to miss. If you Google Dave Yoho Associates, you'll probably get 80,000 entries. But if you Google us, here's an easy way. If you send a communication here, admin, ADMIN. Now, admin is short for administration. Admin at Dave Yoho, DAVEYOHO.com. Admin. And you can get it there. If you go online, anything, you have a question, any other information, we got all kinds of handouts or white papers that we produce that you probably get on a regular basis. We're happy to give it to them without obligation. And don't miss our program in October 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's going to be right here in Washington, and you're going to meet these people we talked about. The guy that does $1.2 billion, and the guy that does 700 million, and the guy after him that does 500 million, and the guy that you're just going to meet some of the most unique characters, the most unique people. And there's an opportunity. Always put yourself in a place where you can learn something.
Well, thank you very much. And we will put your information plus the information about the October event in the show notes. Hope to be able to make it and see you there.
Yeah, gentlemen, my pleasure. My pleasure being with you today.
It's been a real privilege. Thank you. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with the incomparable Dave Yoho. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We always have great guests. Don't forget to leave a review, give us a thumbs up, whatever. In the meanwhile, keep on disrupting, keep on challenging, keep on looking for better ways of doing things. And most importantly, don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile, encourage them. Two simple yet powerful things we can all do to literally change the world. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.